On, guys? This is Thrifty with Thrifty's Gaming News Podcast. Uh, Special episode tonight. A we are doing a special Final Fantasy XVI night. This one will have way less to almost no spoilers, if it can be helped at all, for any of the previous titles. One of the guys here is JRPG Innate, and he is an RPG head. Like he knows the titles backwards, forwards, up ways, one ways, down the other. And then we have Will777JP, and this was actually his first Final Fantasy title. So we're going to try our best to keep the spoilers for other games completely out of it. Last time we kind of got really into the conversation, and by the time we realized what we were doing, it was way it was gone. It was just gone.
Down that rabbit hole.
It was, man, it went from Final Fantasy X to Final Fantasy VII to talking about 12 and the secret characters and like who certain people they're pretending to be and who they actually are. Like it was super bad, and it
Yeah.
was it was when we were in the like who's your favorite character section, and that no Final Fantasy fan can talk about who their favorite character is without mentioning about seven different games. So you just you just let it happen. Um, for those of who know this, give me a couple minutes. I am sharing this out across social media, and so for those of you who watch it after, you can probably fast forward about a minute, minute and a half, if you don't want to hear me just have dead air filler content, which is basically just me rambling, so to speak. And nobody really wants to hear that, so y'all can just fast forward. And a couple of our guests are having trouble getting, or one of our guests is having trouble getting on. Have no idea why. He's been on the show before, and the PlayStation just hates him tonight. I don't know what it is. And then we have another one that might have fallen asleep, and I'm not even kidding. It's Retro, and he is in the UK, so it is super late for that poor guy. He was coming on here just because he loves Final Fantasy and wanted to have a nice little chat about it. So we are going to see if they come on, and then I still have an open invitation out there for Thrash. If he said if he got off work or could get out of work in time, he'd be able to make it on. But if not, we have a great show tonight, and I am very, very excited. I'm glad I get to do this twice because I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this title. So getting to talk about it twice and getting to talk about gaming and just all the rabbit holes and rabbit trails and all the side things that can be brought up during a night like this where you're talking about one of the contenders for game of the year. And I say contenders because there's a lot of games this year that could go for game of the year. And I'm talking about from January to November. Like there's a lot of games that could be game of the year this year. I am trying to get this shared out.
Yeah,
So
it's been a hell of a year. I ain't even mad at it.
dude, and the beginning of the year started off so sloppy. Like so sloppy.
It was a little all over the place. It started off strong for me though with Hogwarts, so I ain't even mad. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, Hogwarts is where I started my. It's the first new game I bought of the year, and so that was really fun. I loved Hogwarts. I still got to go back and like finish one stupid thing.
Yeah.
I I pulled what I did what Thrash did in Returnal. He basically beat the game, or he thought he did. Got to the end credits and thought he beat it. Turned it off. Didn't go back to it. Well, come to find out that there's more to the game after the end credits. So that's kind of what
Gotcha.
happened to me in Hogwarts. We get back they throw their caps up, and I'm like, oh shit, that's the end. Cool. And I was like, oh well, okay. I completed the year at Hogwarts, and there's apparently like you have to be like level 40. You have to do some final exam or whatever. It's the thing that you're going there, and she tells you at like the very beginning of the game, hey, you have to complete your owls.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't. And so I only beat the final boss and I never completed the owls. So that sucked because I was like, hell yeah, I'm done. We're back. We got to see like a little snapshot of all things resolving. And I was like, hell yeah, we're finished.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I got it shared out to a couple Discords. I got it shared out to Twitter. If you are stopping in here, please hit that like button. And subscribe if you haven't already. I picked up one today, which was kind of cool. Picked up three, lost two, lost another one, and picked up one. So, it all comes out in the wash.
Yep.
And with that, we are going to get started. Uh, Innate, I am going to have you do a quick mic check. And just how I'm going to do that is just, you know, tell us your name, what you're playing right now, and give us some thoughts about what you're playing.
Uh, yeah, so right now, of course, is Innate or known as the real Innate on Twitter. Um, I am currently playing Baldur's Gate 3 as my primary on PC. Enjoying that thoroughly so far. I did realize I made a mistake in my build when I kind of understood some of the intricacies of how certain spells work and things like that in the game. So it's cool. It's a learning curve. I thoroughly enjoy an RPG with lots of intricate mechanics. So it's a treat to get one like this that is so robust and just kind of filled out. So playing that. I'm also playing uh, Punch Club 2.
Okay, guys. Well, I just kind of screwed something up. Bear with me.
I mean, I'm having a ball, bro. But I mean, as someone who loves, yeah, I hear that. I hear the echo. I don't know. I don't know why it's echoing though.
I don't either. It's not echoing in my ear. So we had that problem last week on Wednesday where a few folks heard an echo.
Hmm.
Oh, somebody has their YouTube on.
Mine's not.
Okay.
I did earlier. I mean, I can hear myself. It's coming through like something else.
Weird.
But I mean, I'm in party chat all the time. It doesn't echo, so.
That's weird.
Mm.
It
It looks like my mic is like stuck on or something in chat. Uh, okay, one, two, three. One, two, three. Okay, I don't hear it anymore. Okay,
all
now I
right.
hear it. Maybe I'm too loud. Maybe that's what it is.
Said
Uh,
nobody ever about you.
yeah, let me adjust mic level. Uh, I mean it looks good. It looks good, but I adjusted it just now.
Yeah,
Okay.
you sound
Let
way
me see.
better now.
Yeah.
Uh,
I hear it. When
I
Will just
hear it.
talked, I heard it.
When Will talked, you heard it?
Yeah.
So I'll bring our mic levels down.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
weird that this shit does that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm in party chat all the time and it doesn't. So that's why I was like, that's weird.
All right.
Okay,
So
see, I didn't hear it that time.
that's cool.
It's
So
like the
what?
louder I talk, the more I hear it.
Well, let's just not talk loud then.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
I'm
like,
kidding. I'm kidding,
I'm
man.
like, whisper. So,
So
yeah, you know what's going on, guys? The ASMR Final Fantasy XVI coverage.
I was scratch the mic real quick. I'll lick it.
Here, let me.
Yeah, I brought my mic level down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
still in the good range, but I'm on the low side. See, I heard it when he spoke too.
yeah, I
I was
heard
on
the
like,
echo when Will spoke.
it's something with the chat or something.
Here, let me do this. You go ahead and keep telling me about Punch Drunk, whatever the heck that game is called.
Hmm.
Baldur's Gate
And
3.
yeah, I don't want to hear about Baldur's Gate 3. He's a traitor to his own PlayStation kind, and so I just don't want to hear it. That's just rude. And
Hey man, you know I had to give the 4090 some exercise. Come on, man.
man, but you're supposed to wait for the rest of us paupers who can't afford that shit. Like that's what you're supposed to do.
Nah. See, it's funny. The echo stop. Like that whole sentence when I was talking to you just now, I didn't hear it, and then other time, like now, I hear it again.
That's weird because I was even muting my headset to
Yeah.
see if it was because of me, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Let me.
not. So what we're gonna do, we're not gonna really focus on it too much. It's not coming through on YouTube much,
Yeah.
so that's all that matters. Because generally speaking, it's only gonna come through what I'm hearing, because I'm the one streaming. Like they can't see your screens and they can't hear y'all's echoes on y'all's end. If it's well, generally, it like when
Hmm.
Will talks, it echoes a bit on my end, and then that's when I hear it. But we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am super excited about tonight. Will, what are you playing right now? And uh, yeah, kind of what you think about it.
Well, I'm literally playing Remnant 2 as we're talking, and the game is good, man. I mean, it's like really good. And mind you, I don't like these type of games. I really hate any Souls types games. I played Elden Ring for a total of about 7 minutes, and I'm having a great time with this game. It's very accessible. The thing about Souls games that I hate the most is that when you die, it doesn't feel fair. It feels like you just died because they had to kill you. Where in this game, you can learn from your mistakes, you can do better, and I don't ever die more than 3 or 4 times on a boss fight, and I'm able to beat it. So I've been playing that. I've also been playing The Ellipse. It reminds me a lot of Hollow Knight. It just came out a few days ago. Uh, Cheap game on PlayStation Store. It's a dungeon crawler. I wish I could tell you more about it, but I've only played it for about 30 minutes. But it is very interesting. I like the gameplay mechanics, um, and the aesthetics of the game is really cool. That's what interests me to purchase it to begin with. And those are the two games that I'm currently playing, and I'm looking forward to Atlas Fall that's coming out later this week.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, so isn't too shabby. It's sound talking. It's very like chambered and kind of sounds cool to me. Sounds like I'm listening to like an old school like people of London, we are, you know. Uh, and somebody just dropped out because of a network error. I don't know who that was.
I'm
God
still
bless.
here.
The Nate, are you still here? Nope, that was a Nate. Son of a motherless goat. This is irritating. By the way, before we get started on Final Fantasy, did you, like he is one of the absolute best actors I have ever seen in my life. Heath
The guy
Ledger,
who plays Schofield. Oh, Heath Ledger. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, like just really good. Hey, Nate, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, that was weird.
No, I didn't actually like drop out. I saw it looked like you were spinning for a second. I
Yeah.
muted myself for a second because I was vacuuming the gaming room.
Oh, Hey man, get it in when you can. Like,
No, my girlfriend told me to turn on her computer, so she's about to come in here, and I was like, nah, I don't want to hear it. So I put the the smell good stuff on the carpet and vacuumed real quick, make sure it smells nice.
smell good
Good to
stuff.
go. I can't
Nice,
remember what it's called. I just call it, the stuff you sprinkle on the floor before you vacuum. I just don't remember
bro.
what it's called.
I do. I do. It's called Carpet Fresh, my guy. Like it's
Is it? Is
it.
that literally just it?
Well, there's Carpet
That's
Fresh and there's one by Arm and Hammer. But
yeah,
why
the
are we
Arm& and
talking?
Hammer one.
Why are we talking about cleaning? I come to this thing to get away from cleaning. Like this is like
Hey, when
let's
your environment feng shui is, beautiful, you function better.
feng shui. Vong Shui. Sorry, it reminded me of
Yeah,
the Bad Boys 2 spot where he takes the ecstasy and
I do remember.
they go to the captain's house. Your house is very Vong Shui.
I love
What's
it.
wrong with him? He's dumber than usual. Anyways, okay. This is a very loose night, guys. We are going to be talking about gaming. We're about to get into it. There are 5 of y'all here. Let's hit that like button and share this out to your social medias. I appreciate everyone who does. And yeah, they're trolling you in that PC in the chat, and they are coming after you, my guy.
It's all good. I've been PlayStation since day one, so my
I know you
PC,
have.
saying whether my PC's here or not is irrelevant. I've been PlayStation Squad since 1995, baby, so it's all good.
Ooh, I didn't get in until '96.
hmm
Uh,
Yeah, man. I had that nice early push.
I didn't get mine until my birthday. My grandparents bought it for me, and
No doubt.
it's 'cause my parents were too broke, man. I was rocking Super Nintendo while my buddies were playing PlayStation, and
Yeah, my
so
dad, my mom and my dad got together and got it for me. But the way I explained the way my gifts worked when I was younger is that I always knew what I wanted from like a younger age. So, um, like I stopped asking for a bunch of stuff and only asked for one thing. So I usually
shit.
got
That's
what I
how I am
wanted.
now. That's
Yeah.
that's, that's how I am now, my dude. Like I ask for like 1 to 2 things. Like I told my wife, Magic the Gathering and PlayStation.
There you go.
Just cover those
Nice
two
and easy.
bases, and that's it. That's like, but she's always super thoughtful, and she always gets me something really cool that I didn't know I needed, and then I'm like, oh my god, this was awesome. You're so
Yeah, I
smart.
remember. I remember she got you something not too long ago, and you posted it in chat, and I was like, "Dang, that's dope."
Yeah, I don't remember what that was, but yes, she does that type of
Yeah.
crap for me all the time. Like, but she is awesome at like, oh hey, I was out shopping and saw this and thought you could use it, and I'm like, actually, yeah, I've been needing something like that for a month and a half now.
There you go.
Yeah,
She's
it's
she's the wife for the reason, you know.
I'm telling you. Oh, yeah, and she can put up with me, which is a freaking job in and of itself.
There you go.
All right, so right now I'll do my little spiel. I'm getting back into Trails from Zero, and honestly, I am so busy at work right now that I have the audio done for a review. I have the video all captured. Now I just have to put all that shit together. It was supposed to be done on Friday. That didn't happen because I was exhausted. And it's supposed to be done Saturday. And obviously that didn't happen because we were busy all day. And then now I'm doing this tonight. So I do have a review for the Ascent coming up. It's dang near complete. Uh, but so I played that, and then I'm back to Trails from Zero, and I'm thinking about trying to stomach my way through Final Fantasy IX because I always make it about 8 hours into that game, and then I fall asleep while playing, and it's no longer fun. And so I'm gonna try really hard. I re-downloaded it. I've paid for all of the Final Fantasy games that are available on the PS4, PS5, except for the 1 through 6 collection.
Those are
And
pricey.
dude, I want them so bad though. Like,
I don't blame you.
I really do. I've played 2 on my phone. I played 7 on the PlayStation 1 on my phone, on the PS3, on the PS4, and I don't think I've booted it up on the PS5 yet. But like anywhere that I can play that game, I have it and I have played it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those titles I play all the time. I've done 8 that way, and then 9, dude, I'm telling you, man, after the castle scene and the shipwreck at the very, very beginning, within like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm like, this game is boring as hell.
Yeah.
But
It's funny you said that because I've tried to go back and play some of the ones everybody loves that I missed. And 9 was one of them. And you're right, nine's pretty tough. But surprisingly, 6 though, which of course is part of the Pixel remaster, has been actually really fun. And I thought it would be too old, but lit since I started it. And I was like, okay, I can dig 6.
yeah, if we don't get another early 2024, like Chained Echoes or Sea of Stars, I'll probably get one of those to scratch my old school itch. Uh, just because I like playing old school games throughout the year. It makes me feel happy inside. like
I feel
it,
that.
it just takes me back to a time where it was just all easy breezy and I didn't pay bills. All right, so we are going to get started with an easy question tonight. I sent you all the questions. There's a couple more that I didn't put on there. Uh, who was your favorite boss and who was your favorite summon? We'll kind of wrap those in. Also, tonight, if we're talking about stuff and getting into stuff, and one topic bleeds over to another or transitions us back to an older topic, that's totally fine. It's not something that I sent out questions, but it's not something that I expect us to like rigidly follow. Like, who was your favorite character? Mine was Clive. Mine was Jill. Mine was Sid. Okay, cool. Who was your like? It's not an interview. It's a discussion, and so those were mainly just talking points for us to be able to make sure that we hit. So with that though, I am going to start with who was your favorite main character. I consider a main character somebody who actually fought with you and went on some missions. So like Jill, Sid, Torgal, Clive, um, your the uncle, like people who actually like fought with you for an extended period of time. And so I will start tonight off with let's do the newcomer to the whole series. Will, I want to start with you. Who was your favorite main character in the game?
Well, I have a couple, of course, but Sid is my second favorite character, main character. My very first one that I don't hear people talk about much is actually Gav. Gav was funny. He was with you almost every step of the way of the game. His job was extremely important in the game, being the scout, and he was just cool, man. I mean, like at the end of the game when he really took charm with the baby and that pregnant lady, it just brought something to the game that we don't really see in too many games. More of that humanity, more emotion, especially with Clive being so stoic most of the game. It was just a nice change of pace with Gav. And then Sid, my second favorite character. Well, what's not to like about Sid? I mean, his powers. The voice actor that played him was amazing. His voice, his whole mission statement, why he's doing what he's doing. Those two were the ones that I really felt connected to.
Okay. And Nate, same question, man. What was your favorite main character?
My favorite main character was the uncle. Um, I felt like his timing was perfect when he got introduced to the story. He was funny. He always took everything just seriously enough to like not be like a detriment, but he's like it was always comedy, comedic relief, you know. Seeing him jump over the counter and you know, eating and chilling when somebody had took a screenshot of him behind the counter while you're fighting. Um,
Yes, at Martha's Rest.
yeah, at Martha's Rest. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So Yeah, man, he was just dope, like just from the beginning, and to see him go from like the stalwart, like I am the commander, and then realizing, it was his his or not his grandson, but his his nephew, and then he's just, oh my God, where you been, boy? And he's just so excited, and it's just like remind me of my uncles and stuff. So I just thought he was the perfect character. Like I loved being around him every single time he was on screen. He was just awesome. So yeah, that would be mine.
And you know what's funny about that fight at Martha's Rest is that it was kind of his fault that they got into the fight to begin with, because he
Oh,
was being
absolutely.
too loud.
Yep, running his
But
mouth.
that's what makes him cool, you know. It's like family. You always look out for them no matter what.
It
Now I
was
gotta
pretty
fight
messed up.
again.
So one of the so my favorite main character is Jill. I'm I'm absolutely stunned with the way they did her character, the voice actor for the character, or actress for the character, the writing for her. I never felt like anything she did was out of time or out of sync. Like sometimes in these RPGs, like you get conversations that you just have to suspend disbelief and kind of just infer the way that they were saying it. Like, okay, they didn't mean to pause right there. That was more like just the audio sampling or the way they cut it or the way they edited. Like everything with her character was done so well and so almost like methodical. Like they had her character dialed in the entire time, and her interactions with Clive and the way she was so supportive but yet challenging. She was a great fighter. She was a dominant of her own icon. Like everything about her character screamed co-leader, right? At least in my opinion. And then as the game went on, you finally see the relationship between Clive and her. Like she has vulnerable moments, he has vulnerable moments, and it worked so well. And I don't know who did the voice for it. I know I could look it up, but the voice actress for that was so spot on with how she delivered her lines that that really made the character for me, and it made the character. And I posted this to Twitter. It made the character one of my top three females within Final Fantasy, um, which is saying a lot because that puts her in the Tifa and Yuna company, and so that's big for me because those are two of my top tier. Well, I can't say just them because you also have Renoa that Kofi reminded me of on Wednesday. But like, yeah, she absolutely killed it. Um, and then I'd say my other one uh, that I really enjoyed was the uncle. He was just a goofball, but when stuff needed to get handled, he handled it. And if we go through the story, he's the reason why the hideaway was able to keep operating because they had to get a big, huge influx of cash. And the uncle gave some of his rarest stuff and rarest stones and collections in order to make that work for them. So, like, I that was really cool how much of a pivotal part he played uh, in the last third of the game, I want to say. But I really, really enjoyed him as a character. And so, with that, who was your favorite supporting character? Now, this could be anybody who was giving you quests repeatedly. This could have been somebody at uh, Martha's Rest. Like, who was your favorite supporting character? And we'll start with Will again.
Supporting characters, there's a couple of them actually. So Martha was, one of them. Wade was another one. And the third one that I really wanted to kind of punch in the face in the beginning was Quentin. Quentin was just an asshole to me in the beginning of the game. I mean, throughout the whole game, it was kind of an asshole. Just like super dry and super like like, kind of like an intellectual. What made you wonder why the hell is he running this town? Why is he doing agriculture? But that's the beauty of this game is that things start to unfold and you start to see, why things are the way that they are. And those are the reasons that Wade, Martha, and Quentin were some of my favorite ones because there's a few others, but those three really gave us an insight of the world that Final 16 is set in.
Yeah, for some reason I don't remember Quentin. Like who was he?
Quentin is the dude in the village that you first meet with Sid, that helps in that little village. I forget the name of it, but I don't know if you remember when they were all hiding behind like a locked door because the Empire, I call them, we're killing them all for no reason. It's the
Ta-
one of the first villages you visit after you link up with Sid.
Dude, I am drawing such a blank, and that
They killed
sucks
his
because
wife and his family. That's why
oh
he's doing what he does.
yes, okay, yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't like him much either.
no.
Uh, but Nate, who's yours?
You know, now that I think about it, um, I think I kind of mixed some of them in with uh, some of the main characters, but I think when I really thought about it, like he mentioned Martha. Martha was pretty dope. I mean, she was pretty consistent throughout everything, helping everybody and stuff like that. So I did really like her as a supporting character. Um, and then the other person I would say, honestly, is probably the blacksmith. I mean, he was just dope. Like I liked his whole vibe because it's like he's so focused on the craft and I mean, without him, everybody's swords and gear wouldn't be where it's at and at the level that it's at. And then getting to go through his quest to see his demeanor and how his personal quest versus you know going back to his village where he was originally from and everything that took place there. Like it really kind of gave him a face to the person you normally just go to get your weapon. And it really let you see the type of person he was and broke down that stoic exterior that he was kind of putting up. um and you really got to see the quote unquote softer side of not only him but his counterpart in the village where he grew up. And everybody just kind of came together in the end. So that was one of my favorite supporting characters and favorite subquests. So uh, yeah, I like that a lot.
Just to
Okay,
piggyback off what Nate said too, you know, um, this is something this game does so good, and I mean, you see this a lot from first party games where they build up more than just the main character, but you don't really see that from AAA games where the whole cast or the majority of the cast, they build up throughout the whole game. And Final Fantasy XVI really did a great job with most of their characters and giving them backstories, having you relate to them. I mean, the blacksmith, who would say that in any other game or any other typical AAA game that the blacksmith was one of the supporting characters that you like the most? You just really don't, but in this game you do. And he's just one of many, and those are great choices that Nate brought up because now I'm over here listening to him like, you know what? He's right. Like I really like the blacksmith as well.
yeah, that happened a lot to us on the Wednesday show. Like, we would mention our choices, and then somebody else would mention something, and I was like, "Well, yeah, you have a dang good point." So mine was I really liked Gav. Like, I thought Gav was the best supporting character. Like, you had mentioned um, that you thought he was a great main character, and I absolutely love his arc. I love what they did with him. I love how they did it. I love the end when he becomes a surrogate father almost to that baby.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a good character arc for a supporting character that you run into once between every main quest, right? And so, and then all he does, and I say all he does, but then what he does is he scouts for you. Like, that's it. That's it. Nothing else.
Dude, he's come into clutch numerous times. I mean,
Numerous times.
when Jill was about to get beheaded, he was there. He's the one that saved that whole situation. Just getting the basically the when I was in the military, I did my MOS, which is a job that you're assigned to, was a Cav Scout, and our job was basically to go ahead in front of the enemy force and scout out the area, whether it's figure out how many vehicles the enemy has, many soldiers they have, just get as much information as possible. And I think that's another reason of why I like Gas so much because he did his job to the best of his ability, even though it was just him, especially in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, very much so, man. Like, and that's what really drew me to his character. I do also like Tomes. Tomes was an awesome character. He reminded me of like the Deckard Cain from Diablo. Like, just the guy you went to get your lore dumps, and I absolutely love that. So I think he was a really fun character for the Hideaway. But so let's get into like the performance and everything because they've done a couple updates to it. They did the patch that was like a day or two after release, and then they did the one that added the most important feature of the game, and that is motion blur removal. And so, what do y'all think at the end product? The what do you think of the state of the game? Do you think performance is good? Do you think the game is serviceable now and it's all good to go, or do you think it still has issues? Did you think it was a terrible like performance wise? What are y'all's thoughts on that? And then Nate, I'll actually start with you this time since you're kind of the PC guy. You know more about those performance things than we console peasants.
Peasants.
Yes.
Nah, nah. Honestly, I played on the 30 mode,
Oh
and
shit.
it
Okay.
was it was really smooth for me. Um, I am pretty sensitive, obviously, to FPS and stuff like that, but I'm also not bothered by there's a specific way to explain it, which a lot of people tend to miss, but I always explain to everybody that every 30 is not equal because there's frame pacing and a bunch of other stuff that happens that can give this very fluid like effect, um, as opposed to some of the other games where you play where it's really juddery. Like one game I went back to, just using this as an example. Game I went back to play was Lord of the Rings, um, the
The Golem.
Shadow of War. Yeah, absolutely not Golem. I wouldn't play that for free. But yeah, but
They're
Shadow of
all
War,
in Game Pass. No, go ahead.
please no. Um, but yeah, no. That game is really like the frame pacing is bad. So the 30 on that is like all over the place. So it's like it's a struggle to go back without it being, either boosted or them giving an update to the game because you can just feel the hesitation or the hitching in it as opposed to like something like another game that I played in 30 being and this is PlayStation's very good at this for the record, and haters gonna hate, but PlayStation 30 is usually we call it a different 30. It's a running joke in our podcast. PlayStation's 30 is different, and it solidifies itself with when we played Horizon Forbidden West, and the 30 was so smooth. Now, obviously, later they got the 40 mode, and they did a bunch of modes, and you can go crazy. Um, but me and my best friend, we played the game originally in 30. So yeah, for us, we both played this one in 30, and it was super smooth. And I didn't change it when I played through my subsequent playthrough for the Final Fantasy mode, it was responsive, which says a lot to something that's usually a fast-paced game like this. Um, so yeah, the performance for me was spot on. I can't speak for the 60 because I never switched to it, but I know it had, some drops here and there. But what I've played in the 30 was flawless, and I had absolutely zero issues while playing with performance at that mode. So as far as that goes, it's much more than serviceable. It's pretty much perfect, and I had zero actual glitches, so I'm good to go. It was great for me.
Nice. You talk about glitches. I didn't have a single glitch in the whole game. Like there's nothing that stopped it or crashed or anything like that. The only thing that I had was the frame pacing was off. But because I played in 60 at the beginning. Will, what's your thought on performance? Did you play it in 4K 30 or did you play it in 1440 1080p 60? Like how'd you do it?
Yeah, I played 30 as well. Um, I don't want to look. I play a lot of PlayStation, like both of you guys. So every time I read this issue that people are having with 30 frames, I just do not understand it. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? That it's unplayable, that it's the stuttering or the frames are so bad that the game, I just can't even deal with it. But then I forget I'm playing on PlayStation, and 30 on PlayStation is way different. The biggest complaint that I have with the quality of the game visually was the what do you call it? The motion blur. That was my
Yeah.
biggest complaint in the beginning. I mean, I got this game day one. I went to GameStop. I was pissed because they didn't have a midnight release, and I had to wake up the next day and go get it at 12. I took off work for it. I mean, so I was mad about it. But you get kind of used to it, and I'm so thankful that they brought that out later. But that was my biggest complaint with the game. It got to the point where I'm watching some of the cutscenes, and then the game transitioned to gameplay, and I'm still watching. The game just looked beautiful. I have no complaints with the performance whatsoever. And the only other time that I can remember was Ratchet and Clank and Horizon, where you're watching a cutscene and all of a sudden it ends and the gameplay picks up and you don't even know because it almost looks identical. So big props to that whole development team for doing a great job on this game. And I didn't get no glitches. I didn't get no pop-ins. I didn't get no stuttering. I didn't get none of that. And I didn't play in 60 because the game was just gorgeous at 30 and it worked just fine. So I had no incentive to play in a different mode.
I mean, that's fair. I really enjoy my games at 60 FPS. 30 actually feels weird to me, even though most of your PlayStation titles at 30 do still play very well. Uh, and I think Ratchet and Clank was one that I really kind of went back and forth on, like a lot, because Ratchet and Clank, the graphics were so beautiful that like playing it in 60 was almost a disservice because it was such a gorgeous game. This one, playing it, I loved playing like the exploration and the big open areas in 30, but when it came to the combat, I would switch it over to 60 because if I tried to do combat at 30, man, my parries were off, everything was just off. And so, but no, overall performance of the game, I think it was great. I didn't really get bothered a ton like some people did by the frame pacing when you're going into cities and stuff. Because in games like this, I don't really care about that. I care how does it work when I'm like in combat? How does it work when I'm actually transitioning into a fight, out of a fight? Having a stutter and a glitch, or having a stutter rather, while I am inside of a city that it doesn't matter. I don't even notice because I'm barely paying attention. But then they released that stupid patch for the motion blur, and I'm like, thank God. I drop it down to 0, and I swear to God, guys, the game like sped up for me. It like everything felt faster, everything felt more responsive. I had almost no more glitching, and it was amazing. But that
Thrifty,
was
let me ask you a question real quick.
yep.
Have you ever met anybody or heard of anybody, whether social media, real life, doesn't matter, where they say, man, try this game at the motion blur of 93, or man, turn the motion blur on. So then my question is, why the hell do they keep adding this feature to the games?
First of all, it's Square Enix, and you're asking them why they did something in a video game. So we usually don't get responses to those type of questions. Uh, but second, they did it because they wanted to be heavy cinematic, and one of the ways you get heavy cinematic is by having motion blur because it looks like it's an actual movie camera following him around instead of a gaming camera. And so, and I say gaming camera, but y'all know what I mean by that.
Hmm.
Like, it looks more like a live action movie instead of a video game. And so I think that's why they did it. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't play my games with motion blur. It's one of the things I always turn off. I don't like it. I like the crispness that you get without it. And I like the fact that it lets my 240 hertz really shine through. Uh, and so, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of motion blur, but I also feel like a game like this should absolutely have a motion blur setting. And the fact that they didn't realize that was like, come on, guys. Like,
Yeah,
it's
they
the.
dropped the ball.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said they dropped the ball on that.
Oh, I thought Nate was coming in after you.
No, yeah, yeah. So no, I was gonna say that's one thing that I was explaining to someone where definitely I noticed when it comes to the settings of a lot of stuff. That's where, because I know that at one point in an interview he mentioned how much they paid attention to a lot of foreign developers and games like God of War and so on and so forth. That's one area they really need to pay attention is the settings menu because they were missing quite a bit. And I'm like, bro, if you're gonna mimic them, just go all the way, And I'm like you said, that motion blur would have been, problem number one. Because like y'all, I was actually getting headaches playing the game originally, and then it came out, and we did basically what you said. Me and my friend, we went in, we immediately dropped it. We settled on one because it basically was non-existent, but it was like just enough. Where it just barely, it basically did its job. It did what the effect it's supposed to have without giving me a headache. But of course, it starts on 5, and it was insane, and I was just constantly getting headaches, and it's actually a big reason why I was getting headaches playing Jedi Survivor as well. Um, it's just the motion blur is insane. So yeah, like y'all, definitely tuning it all the way down immediately did wonders for the rest of the game. So yeah, thankfully that patch came out very very early. Um, and yeah, I don't think there's a soul on this earth that didn't turn that down the moment that patch came out. So 100% agree there.
No, John Linneman from Digital Foundry said that he really didn't like it being turned down at all. And I'm like, dude, I,
Wow.
I don't know what game you're playing. Like, it
Wait, from
does.
where?
John Linneman from Digital Foundry.
Oh, those guys. I'm not. Yeah, whatever.
It's sorry, I'm watching the intro of Sid
He
right now.
tweeted it, didn't he?
Yeah, he
He
did.
tweeted it. Yeah, I remember the tweet.
He said at most you should drop it down to 3, and I'm like, man, no, just drop it down to 0 or 1, and call it
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Because
one was solid because we turned it all the way off at first, and I liked it. But then I was like, okay, I need just wait, hold on, just what? Oh, okay, there we go. It was just like that slight adjustment, and one was enough. I was like, never above one.
I like how he
so,
said that even though the number one complaint right away from like 90% of people was the motion blur. So it's like, dude, what? Like, you're right, Thrifty. What game are you playing?
like, it was just bad. So that was actually I played the demo, and that was the first thing I noticed. I was in the mountain range at the very beginning, and basically all I did was I took the camera and I panned it slowly, and you could see on a 65-inch television, which was what I play on, you could see like a 1.5-inch ghost on his sword hilt when it was sheathed in the back. I'm like, man, that looks like shit. Like, and so I went in and tried to turn it off, and I was like, wait, there's no motion blur. There's no option. Surely they'll have one when the game launches. And so I booted up, and I'm like, oh shit, there's still no motion blur option. And then people had so much other stuff at the beginning when this game first came out that they could have griped about. They could have griped about the frame drops or the stutters in really not densely populated areas, but just like cities and stuff. And no, everyone was like, let me turn off the motion blur. Please let me turn off the motion blur. So that was the only real issue I had with it, and they corrected it. So I got to enjoy the last like 40% of the game with no motion blur. Um, but on that, what was kind of your favorite feature of the game? What was something that you were really happy they put in, or a setting that you were super happy with? I know the motion blur, but like, was there anything else? Like for me, I really loved the um, oh shoot, the active time lore. I thought that was the absolute best feature that they added, because I would do all my missions and stuff and then go back to tomes, and I would like research and look at all the new stuff I like got, and like I would read up on it and how it like broke it down from like the timeline of, okay, well, this was Jill as a kid, this was Jill when you met her as Shiva's dominant and didn't know it, this is what happened and like it gave snippets of like their place in the timeline, and it evolved the character in the kind of the codex as it went, and I thought that was freaking awesome. But Will, what was your favorite? What was your favorite feature in the game besides
Sa-
motion blur?
Same thing as you said, man. The active time lord. I'm not gonna sit here and act like, well, I gotta pick something new because Thrifty already said. No, that was exactly the feature that I really liked about it. There's so many things I liked about it, but one of the big things of the active time lord that I like is that it gives it to you, it baby feeds it to you. So basically, whatever screen or whatever section of the game you're in, it gives you the information pertaining to that. It doesn't give you a list of things or a whole encyclopedia of information where you kind of get unmotivated to look through it because there's so much information, or where you have to take, one day of gaming just to read through everything. No, as soon as you are playing and you have a question about something, you just push the center button on your controller and it pops it right back up. And there's so many other games that could really benefit from this. Now, I mentioned earlier how much I hate Souls games and the difficulty, but people always combat me with, well, the lore and the story is so awesome. And I'm like, okay, that may be true, but it's so difficult just trying to find this information. So what Final Fantasy XVI did, just open a whole new world for me, which will, I think, is another topic about the medieval thing. But it just made me go deeper into the whole world, and that's why I am one of the few people that I know that really likes the side quest from this game, and the active time lore has a lot to do with it.
Okay. And Nate, what about you? What was your favorite feature?
So this kind of goes back to the menu thing that I was talking about earlier, because that's where it should have been. But my favorite feature actually was the helpful rings, um, because I actually got to see a lot of people use them for different reasons. A friend of mine was apparently developing arthritis in his fingers, so dodging on top of fighting for a long period of time uh, would actually hinder his ability to play the game. So he was able to lessen the strain by putting on like the auto dodge ring. Um, and then I saw somebody else who had like a 6-year-old kid or something, and their kid, they might have even been 6, they might have been younger than that, but they were having a ball playing the game because again they put on the auto dodge ring, so the kid didn't have to really worry about that. Now obviously, if we've all played the game, you can't, if you're in a particular instance where you're doing a skill where you can't dodge, you're going to get hit anyway. But it made the game playable for some, quite a few people who otherwise might not be able to play it, which then, brought about essentially, accessibility features. Um, and that's why I said ultimately, as much as I loved them and they are my favorite feature, I wish they would have just put them in an accessibility menu instead, so that people could just turn them on and it didn't punish people by taking up a ring slot. Um, you know, with the auto dodge and the timing dodge and so on and so forth. I thought that would have been a perfect set of things to put in an accessibility menu, especially again because, like I said, they were paying attention so much to what other devs were doing across the world. And accessibility menus have obviously been a very menus or features have been a very very hot topic over the last couple of years. And we've been getting more and more robust ones with different color blindness and all that stuff. And I thought that would have fit perfectly in an accessibility features menu. But yeah, that was definitely my favorite feature. I felt like they helped a lot. I personally used the one that triggered to show you R1 when stuff was happening, mainly just because honestly, I was so fatigued by the time I got to towards the end of this game, from all that. As much as I love all the flashing animation and particle effects, half the time I couldn't see, and I was too lazy to constantly be fighting the camera to look. So I was like, I'll just know when to dodge when the R1 pops up on the screen, and I'll just hit that. So that was my lazy way of camera any more than I need to. So yeah, I love that feature. I thought that was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, Wooly actually posted something as well about the rings just should have been an on or off slider. Like, do you
Yeah,
want?
yeah. So an accessibility menu. Yeah,
Because the thing that I ended up not like taking advantage of, I didn't take advantage of Torgal near as much as I should have. His
yeah,
attacks were so stupid OP, except for healing, but his attacks were so OP,
yeah. I actually
and
forgot about him a lot of times. So
I
I
did
agree.
too. And then I was like, oh shit, yeah, Torgal. Hit the button, select down, ravage. Like, just do the damn thing, kill him. But it was, yeah, those rings just should have been on or off. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that one of the rings was a combat ring that like you can just press a button and it does things. That's actually really cool.
Well,
Because my
that's why
son,
people were trying to crap on that game. They were trying to say how easy it is because of the rings, while we knew they weren't playing the damn game because you would have known that that's a feature. And plus, sorry to cut you off, Thrifty, but the there's only what I think was three slots or three rings
yeah,
that you can wear at once, which was kind of frustrating because there's so many good ones that you're like, damn, I wish I had 10 hands so I can, you know, use a lot of these rings. And one of the ones that I kept around was a Torgal one because then Torgal will auto attack and you don't have to really think about it on top of all the other things you're trying to do.
yeah, that's why I forgot about him so much because I was trying to maintain my own health. I was trying to get in position, dodge, especially in the like the icon battles. Jeez, like I didn't have time to think, much less worry about what Torgal was doing. But I also didn't want to give up things that took away like my cooldowns or that, the Berserker ring I think is by far the most broken item in this entire game. Uh, because it basically, when you hit your parry, you're on steroids for the next 20 seconds. And it's so broken, especially if you can get your timing down. But I never remembered about Torgal.
Well, to your point though, the Berserker ring was another thing that I thought was a missed opportunity for a simple just uh like it should have just been the master version of dodge, I thought,
Yeah,
rather than taking up a ring slot. Because like, who really took it off? Like
no,
once
right.
you got it, yeah, it was too much damage. It increased not only your damage output, like as far as like the amount you hit for, but your speed as well. So it's like, why would you take that off? Like that, it was almost integral, once you got it. So I'm like, well, why not just make that an advanced version of the dodge, the mastered version? Because I was like, what do I get, from that? And I was like, that would have been a perfect master dodge, is being able to get that. And again, now you can put something else on in the ring slot. So, yeah, especially because they're so limited, I felt like they definitely should have pushed stuff like that and the helpful rings onto a menu, and that would have cleaned things up a little bit more, give people a little more freedom.
Yeah, and it's just always weird to me because people have, you know, if you're already going to be a dude as a main character that's wearing three rings, earrings, pendants, all this other stuff, my God, just let him wear 10. Like, just let him have 10. Just,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
Well, again,
uh,
that was a factor, though, of course, of the streamline effect that they put on the game.
yeah,
They wanted to reduce your need to pay attention to any of that, and they kind of went overboard with it, and then kind of limited. But they gave you a bunch of rings, but then kind of limited how many you could actually put on, and it was like,
yeah. Like, hey, here's all this stuff. Can't use it. Like,
yeah, essentially.
but speaking of items and stuff, that was one of the things that, and we'll just transition into another part of this. That was one of the things that really kind of bothered me about this game was the items were so freaking limited. Like you had 8 items, I think, and I think 4 of them were potions, like for health, because you had a potion, a high potion, elixir, and the last elixir. Um, and then supposedly we just dropped somebody, but I'm sure he'll come right back. Um, but that just bothered me to no end, especially as a Final Fantasy like fan. There were no status effects. There was no real stuff that came in and said like, "Hey, this is a water creature. This is it's weak to fire. It's an ice creature. It's weak to this, or it's water. It's weak to thunder." Like, I think that would have made this game even 10 times better and 10 times harder. Which I know they didn't want to make it hard because they wanted folks to be able to have that streamlined experience that Innate was talking about, and I get that. But when you take away all the status effects, when you take away the strategy, and you've already taken so much other stuff and kind of turned it on its head, that really makes me like understand a little bit why people are coming at this and going, man, it's Final Fantasy in story, title, it's Final Fantasy in music, but man, something about the structure of the gameplay doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. I think if they would have
Yeah.
kept this combat and put in like you can be poisoned, okay, you got to worry about that now. You can be you can be burned, you can be blind, uh, you can have all these status effects done, and so now you have to use your items to also clear your status effects. I think that would have gone a long way to kind of ease up that whole narrative, false narrative at that, that this wasn't really a Final Fantasy game. And it honestly would have made it more fun going into a new section, like going into the desert and realizing, okay, I need to bring these icons with me into the desert. And because their elements are going to do better against these other things. That would have been really awesome. But what are some things about this game that you're like, man, I wish they would have done that, or I wish they wouldn't have gone this direction with it? Mine, like I said, is it's the items. Innate, what do you got?
I mean, the itemization was a big one for me. I mean, that was huge, obviously. Very early on, I spoke about, the lack of, the elemental damages or elemental considerations, the poison. We didn't have the mainstays, the curaga, the fire, the haste, so on and so forth. All the main staples that we're used to and really know and love in the series. And that's why I ultimately told a lot of people, I was like, it's like you said, and it's Final Fantasy and all those things, right? So for me, it wasn't really that it wasn't Final Fantasy. I mean, this game couldn't get more Final Fantasy, you know, if it tried. what it was it was missing a lot of the RPG elements, while which was ironic because in a world where like every other game is trying to maintain being itself while incorporating a ton of RPG elements, they went the opposite way. They removed a lot of the RPG elements. Um, so that was definitely something that was kind of shocking to me, just how much was, I guess, either outright removed or streamlined. That was definitely my biggest gripe with this one because I felt like that was a missed opportunity for an increase in depth. Um, to like you said, the combat and the mechanics being poisoned, and things of that nature. Uh, and hopefully, if they want to continue this direction, they look at that and expand upon it. Um, the one other thing that I didn't like was the amount of skills that we had, and that X remained jump when I pressed the augment button in order to change to my skills. I felt like I could have just had another skill there, so I could have had 9 skills equipped instead of instead of just 6. Um, that was like another point where I was like, man, I really felt like, why is jump? Like I never jumped while I was pressing a button to do a skill. So I was like, it should have just been a skill slot.
Dude, you could have
So
had
yeah.
12 then. Or 4, 8. Yeah, you could have had 12 because each icon would have had an additional slot at that point.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Well, I wasn't counting circle. My bad. I was thinking active skills. Sorry, not the one that's auto. But yeah, in that case, you would have had 12. Yeah, if you count
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
you're right, you're
skill
right.
and circle. Yeah, I meant the skills that we selected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My bad. For some
Yeah,
reason, I went into
yeah.
Hogwarts Legacy mode and I was like, wait, you circle did something, triangle did something, and then yeah, my bad. You,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
so yeah, and I agree. I feel like they got rid of. It's almost like they went too hard into the hey, we want this to be a streamlined action story focused game. It
Exactly.
it is 100% Final Fantasy,
Yep.
but it's story based action adventure. This does not feel like an RPG title to me at all. It
Yeah. Me neither.
because I mean, not even the freaking blacksmith mechanics. Like those did not ever make me like, oh, I need to get this thing to do this thing, right?
It was very
Um,
minimalistic on everything.
right. And I never like went hunting for items. I never had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Basically. But
but
again, people think that means you hate the game. Like I
oh,
said, I played the game for what it was, and I still gave it. I was like, I ended on like a 7.5 to an 8. I was like, I was good to go. But I was like, at the same time, I was like, look, dude, RPGs are my favorite genre on the planet, and have been since the PS1. Like, I know a RPG when I see one, and this just isn't very much of one. I was like, the fact that I've played games that don't even have RPG in even uttered, around them that have more RPG elements is kind of crazy to me. Um, that I'd be in a time when I'd be like, the game I know to be one of the foremost, RPGs on the planet isn't really an RPG in the slightest. So it's like, although like I said, I enjoyed all the aspects of it, and so the plus quest and all the things that they came together with, they stripped a lot of that, a lot of it out, and yeah, and like RPG said in the chat, it's very Devil May Cry based. But the crazy thing is, on the streamline side, they almost went too hard on that part because Devil May Cry has more customization and options in his combos and combat than than you know uh, you do in Final Fantasy as well. So it's like they tried to go so far action, but then so what really was it was just an oversimplification because then there's character action games that have a ton of combos and crazy stuff that you can do and customization and alternate weapons and all this stuff that you could just go crazy with and make a much more varied or different build to the point where your Clive really could have played completely different than mine. You know what I mean? Um, and I think that's where they really, I'm hoping at least, like I said, if this is the direction they want to go, they really, really expand upon it, and really look closely at it. And I said pretty early on, despite, like I said, despite me, I still enjoyed my time with the game. I got the platinum. Um, that I thought when it came to being uh, an action JRPG, that Tales of Arise beat this game's ass when it came, because that game is RPG all up, down, left, right, and through it. And I told people early on before it came out, my concern is that they'll go too far away from it. And I was like, how far do you have to come away from being an RPG till you're no longer really an RPG and now you're just an action game? And I said I felt like that line got really thin with some games, and that they could, possibly write it. And I think honestly, if this game didn't have the name Final Fantasy on it, a lot of people would be way more lenient and ready to be like, it's an action game with some RPG elements. But that like rubs some people the wrong way because they're like, I love this game. How dare you? And I'm like, I didn't say it was bad. I just said I think it's an action game with RPG elements. Like, why are you so crazed about that? It's like people don't want to hear any criticism in that regard. And, it is what it is, man. We'll see where they go from here.
Yeah. Um, I hope they bring it back in a little bit because I think Final Fantasy VII Remake did it better
Hmm.
than any other Final Fantasy out there when trying to blend the two and marry the two styles. But Will,
But
what
there's not.
about you,
Don't you
man?
drink. Don't. Oh, you're spitting in that. Sorry. I thought my girlfriend was about to drink something, and I was like, don't do that.
Oh,
Because it was something sweet in there, and she doesn't like sweet stuff. I thought she was about to see what it was, and I was like, don't
oh.
don't do that.
So, so Will, what about you? What did you think?
I actually want to touch on the RPG subject. Is that cool, Thrifty?
I don't care.
So let me just give you a little bit of background so you guys can see where I'm coming from. So I've been playing video games since I was 5 years old, right? Now I stopped playing video games when I turned 18. I joined the military and then I got out the military and then I really wasn't, I was trying to get my life together with job, trying to make money and get my life situated as an adult once I got out the military. So my video game playing kind of stopped there. I mean, I used to play the Madden here and there and the Call of Duty stuff like that. It wasn't until I hit about 29, 30 years old where I really got back into the game, into gaming. So I am 35 years old now, so about 5 years now. The last 2 to 3 years is when I really been gaming heavy. I mean, 2 years ago, I tried to set a record for myself of beating 100 games. Of course, they're not all going to be big AAA 60-hour, RPGs or 100 hours RPGs, but I want to get a mixture of a little bit of everything. In those 2 to 3 years, the one thing I notice about RPG games is that they do the same thing over and over and over again. Now, look, I'm not going to say all of them because obviously I'm not playing every single RPG out there or JRPG out there, but from what I do play, the mechanics seem to be just done to death. Now, going into Final Fantasy XVI, the RPG elements that were there, going back a little bit to the elements, that's one thing that I wish they would have done better. For example, I'm playing Remnant 2, and the elements aren't. They're there where if I get poisoned, I gotta heal or kind of wait it out or get health. Or if I'm fighting a boss fight where his weakness is fire, I can do that, and it adds extra damage. I wish they would have done that with Final Fantasy 16, especially how all the icons are elemental. I really think that they dropped the ball with that. But also, the RPG elements that they did include in this game is what made me like the game because they added RPG elements story wise to an action adventure game that made me like it even more. If they would have just done straight up action adventure, I don't think I would have liked Final Fantasy 16 as much as I did.
That's really interesting. Like that's interesting because for me, and that's why I love having different perspectives on here.
And also, mind you, a little, I'm sorry, I'll get back to you real quick, but this is the first Final Fantasy 16 game that I beat. It's not the first one that I played. The other one that I played the longest, which I've only got about 15 hours in, is Final Fantasy VII, and it's a chore for me to continue. It's just a chore.
The first one,
No, the remake.
oh, that makes my heart hurt just a bit. But you know,
I was about to say, he about to feel. He's like, hold on, wait a minute.
that, that that makes my heart hurt just a bit. But we'll be okay. We'll get through this.
I guess I just don't like the, it's doing the whole turn-based slash act, action game thingy. But and once again, I beat, I mean, to 2021, I beat 65 games. Last year, I beat another 70 games. It's just something about that game. I don't know if it's because it's a mixture of the two. I mean, I hate turn-based games as is already, but it's just something about that. I really like the characters. I mean, I like so much about that game, but it's just the combat. Sometimes I find it too difficult, sometimes I find it too easy. The way the layout is, as far as like the options and adding, like the buffs, to me that gets too convoluted, and like I'm just not interested enough to actually go into detail that would actually help me maybe with the combat. But that's why I'm such a big fan of 16, because I feel like they streamlined a lot of that for me, but yet they still kept a little bit of that essence from that game.
Okay. I'm.
I hear what you're saying. I just think that I just think that some of the stuff is not streamlined. It's just gone. Like it's
Yeah.
just not even there. Yeah,
It's
that's the only difference for me. But I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm in the middle here because at the same time I finished that one. I finished Final Fantasy 16 as well, obviously. But um yeah, 7 remake is kind of in a weird spot for me. But I don't want to. It's so complicated to explain. But um I wasn't a fan of some of the enemies being hit scan based, where I would dodge but still get hit, and that was a whole thing. Um, but yeah, I'm not like a huge person in that either. But I said a while back that as much as I loved it, I wanted that system that they developed for Final Fantasy VII Remake to remain for Final Fantasy VII Remake and going forward, and for them to improve on it. But I didn't want 15 games copying that style as much as people really loved it, because I know Thrifty does really love it, and I know a couple of my other podcast mates, they really loved it too. But yeah, I don't think that system is perfect either. Um, but yeah, what you said about this, like I think they gave you what you wanted, right? And it's not to say that it doesn't have it. And that's why I used the phrasing that I did when I was saying Final Fantasy 16 is an action adventure game with RPG elements.
Yep.
But I wouldn't call it an action RPG. Like
No,
if you get a chance, if you haven't played it, play Tales of Arise and you'll see the difference in what I mean.
I have,
If you
and
have you
I
beat it?
like that game. No, I haven't beat it. It's way too long, and I'm the
It
type
is
of person that likes
it
to
is
do
incredibly
side
long.
quests a lot.
There
But
is a shit ton of side
yeah,
quests in that game, so
I'm
that's
still
fair.
playing that.
But if you see the difference in how that game plays and the way it's set up mechanically, a lot of those elements are what I'm talking about that's missing in this game. That doesn't make it a bad game, because that's not the discussion, right? We all
Hmm.
established that we like the game.
Yeah, we
right.
love the game.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's an action game with RPG elements as opposed to an action RPG, because it is missing a lot of key things that would make it that. Because realistically, if I'm saying this game is an action RPG, then we got to go revisit a bunch of games
But yeah.
that that are now RPGs. It's the same thing with there's a discussion where people keep accidentally calling Zelda an RPG. Zelda's not an RPG. The
It's
the
action
the
adventure.
creator is an action adventure game, exactly. Even the creator came out to tell people, "Hey, please stop misidentifying the game. Like the game is an action adventure game." But that goes to show you how confused some people get sometimes about what actually is an RPG. Honestly, I don't really understand how people think that Zelda's an RPG, but um I'm like, my man don't even level up. Like he ain't even got the basics. Like so I don't really know where people get confused with that. But that's yeah, that's the only thing I was thinking. Just I think that they could stand to increase it, and like me and Thrifty were saying, like there's a number of games that were in the time frame that came out shortly before this game, in the last couple of years, where it's like they weren't RPGs, and now they've got so many RPG elements that they could essentially be one. Stuff like God of War. God of War had a ton of elements in them where you were going after specific gear crafts, changing up your different builds, to the point where, like we were saying, some people's Kratos played entirely different than my Kratos
Oh,
Yeah.
because they
dude,
were running
yes.
entirely different runes,
Yep.
and you know what I mean. So yeah, like I hear it in your voice already. You get what I'm saying. Like I seen people that did stuff, and I'm like, yo, I didn't even think of that. And they're punching, and like the blood fist, is raising, and they're raging, and they're going into rage constantly or something, or they're poisoning them to death, or like there were so many different things that you could do because of all the different systems, the
Hmm.
runes, and the way that you utilize the combos in that game. And that's what I'm really hoping that they expand upon if they want to continue down this line. Because one of the other things that I thought about, I was like, damn, can I at least get a color change in his outfit on Final Fantasy mode?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like, dang, bro, I'm wearing this bland fit. Like, I'm like, bro, I appreciated it the first time. This is Daddy's fit, but bro, like, where the unlocks at? Where can I get another fit? Can I change it up? Can I, you know, um, some of the weapons had really cool names, like they had wind, like they would have a wind ability or something, and they didn't. And like, there's just so many things where it's like these are things that happen in RPGs that like they kind of like the s- the s- the essence was there, and they could have done it, and then they just didn't. So like, yeah, that's where I was saying it's missed. But yeah, what was there, I appreciated it. But yeah, going forward, they definitely got to expand on it a considerable amount going forward.
So one of the callbacks they did was with some of the weapons and some of the names.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yep.
played with the
Masamune.
firebrand. Yeah, the Masamune. You played with the firebrand early on. Uh, and I'm like, firebrand. Oh, cool. This is the sword that gives you, fire elemental to your attacks. And then there was no fire elemental added, and I was like, that's weird. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's like they
why?
set it up for that, but they never went through with it.
Exactly.
And it really is one of those things that made me scratch my head a bit. Uh, and one thing that I think people have a problem with is they think because you're critical of a title that you don't like a title. And that is
Mm-hmm.
not true. That's like the furthest thing from the truth. I am
Absolutely.
critical because I have spent 90 hours with this dang game, and I absolutely adore it. I think it's fantastic. Like, I'm playing through the little bit of the opening again, and dude, I just feel myself like I could easily get wrapped back into this for a second playthrough,
Yeah.
which that speaks a lot to the game. But they missed out on so many. Horizon Forbidden West is more of an RPG than this game is, and
Agreed.
its level up system, its ability system, its crafting system, uh, ex
Elements.
the
I mean, it's all there. It's all there.
this is the because yeah, the tripcaster you can send out frozen bombs and fire bombs, and you can set traps with electricity to disable enemy. Like so much more stuff was done. Where this game, I felt like it was, hey, here's a really great freaking story, and here's amazing music, and here's all these other things, but we're not gonna fully go through everything. And I'm like, what? Guys,
Hmm.
you you have the skeleton of literally the best game in the Final Fantasy series, but you missed it. Like you missed because
Yeah.
I can't give that to you. That, in my opinion, is still Final Fantasy X. But
Hmm.
well, once again, I've said this many times before. It depends on what day you ask me. If it's Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy VII R, I don't
Yeah.
really know which one is my favorite. But today it's 10 again.
Eight is my favorite, but I know everybody hates it. So.
Dude, I freaking love 8. It's my number 2. It really is. And the only reason why it's not higher is because I absolutely love the fighting cast of Final Fantasy X. That
Okay, that's
cast
fair.
had some of the best dynamic I've ever seen. And so it's, and I'm being a little bit more coy by just saying the fighting cast and stuff, because this is I was the reason we had spoilers last time, so
I got you.
I'm trying to be a
I
good
know.
boy this
It
time.
makes you wanna. It makes you wanna dig in, man. It's when your repertoire is so deep, you can't help but want to bring up the old stuff and be like, man, but if they would have just done it like this, though, you know. Trust me, I know somebody mentioned earlier. One of the girls I follow on Twitter, she's a super passionate RPG player, and she mentioned how she loves when you inevitably get the ship in the game, specifically usually an airship. Um,
Yes.
and that was like the running joke. It was like, is it even an is it even a JRPG if you don't get an airship? That was like a joke at one point on Twitter. And but it was funny because I thought about all of my favorite games, and at some point, if it's not even if it's not an airship, it's at least a ship. Like you get some sort of like vehicle, like some sort of traversal thing. Um, but yeah, typically an airship, and I mentioned Xenogears is mine, where you get the Yggdrasil, and again, yeah, again, like I said, you want to mention all the cool stuff that happens, but again, you get a ship, and you get to traverse the world. And my other favorite was Ragnarok, which was in Final
Yes.
Fantasy VIII. I love Ragnarok, man.
Yes.
The way you get Ragnarok was insane. That I'll never forget those sequences, and that's something that I explained to people about JRPGs about that time period that Final Fantasy did so well was in something like Final Fantasy VIII, you went to so many diverse locales. Like when I got to the futuristic city and it revealed itself to me, and oh my god, and we you launched into space. Everything was just so amazing. It was just like you want to talk about discovering different parts of the world and things like that. Like Jared, nothing did that quite like JRPGs, where you just got to discover like you went from an academy to the local town that was near you to another town that was like reminds you of something in like you know like the Prohibition era, and but it was like France at the same time. Like I don't, Final Fantasy has done some incredible places, man. And it's like literally transporting you to a new world every time you discover a new city or something, a new type of people, in the game, and realize all these people live in the same world, but live vastly different from one another. To the point where, like you said, like I was saying, when you discover Ragnarok, if you remember, you guys get shot into space. Like
Yeah.
I didn't play that game thinking I was gonna get shot into space, like, and it was
Well, dude,
incredible when you did.
and that's one of the things that I feel like one of the coolest things about RPGs to me is they all have that Act 3 twist. That
Hmm.
Act 3 thing. So, as a matter of fact, Tales of Arise, and I'm not going to spoil it, but Tales of Arise has like 3 of them.
Yeah, it
And
does. It does.
it's it has the one at the beginning that actually changes the opening credits. Or the I'm sorry, the one close to the beginning that changes the opening credits. You have the one towards the end that like kind of puts pieces together, but then shatters everything you've thought, but not really, but sort of. And then you have like the characters dialoguing over that. And then there was oh shoot, there was one more. When you go to one of the other cities, like nothing is quite as it seems. Like you're walking through the city, and the whole time you're like, "This is a trap. This is a trap. This is a trap. This is a trap. I'm
Hmm.
gonna die. This is a trap." And then like they welcome you with open arms, and you're like, "Wait, what? Oh,
Yep.
okay."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
JRPGs are so good about that. Uh,
Absolutely.
Even like me, I'm playing through Trails from Zero, and they dropped a little tiny nugget in like the very little bit of the opening, like the first 2 hours of the game. They talk to you about the mafioso, or however the heck you say it on there. And by the end of chapter one, you have done nothing else about those people, with those people. There's nothing that you need to know about them. And by the end of chapter one, you're like, okay, cool. That was just like a throwaway line. We know the mafia is here working in this town. And then by the end of chapter two, it's like they wrap them all the way back in, and you're like, oh shit, that's what that nugget was for. Oh, oh God, oh they're, and like you get these realizations throughout it, and it's just so much fun. And I don't feel like this game, I don't feel like Final Fantasy 16 had a ton of those moments. Uh, Theirs was more. It had it had one that I know, and that's when we thought Dion was dead, and come to find out he was being. Oh, excuse me, guys. Whew, sorry, he was being nursed back to health in that little
Sorry to hear
fishing
that, bro.
village, and I'm like, dude, I thought he was dead. That changes everything
Yeah.
because that means he still has access to Bahamut's powers, and
Exactly.
that's like a game changer. And that was about the only time that I'm like, okay. But
So
everything
Jill,
else,
what about Jill? When we didn't even know Jill had the powers, we didn't know Jill was still alive. They had a couple of those little twists in there.
yeah, and you're right, they did, but
I think it
none
was
of
just that that
them.
was so early on that it was just like it wasn't like the build up wasn't really there. Like, I mean, it was a surprise, but like, I was much less surprised than Clive was. Like,
Yeah,
Clive was
right.
just like, yeah, like I recognized her and everything like immediately, and Clive had to like
Yes,
beat her ass to realize it was her. Like, I was like, bro, what are you doing?
he straight up
So,
did beat her ass, and it was. I just played that fight, and dude, I was so conflicted. It's like, dude, you can tell it's her from a mile away. Stop
yeah,
it.
like I'm like mile away, bro, and he just jumps in and was like, I'm gonna beat her ass. Like,
Yeah, Joshua, that's another one.
Yeah, I could have done without about 60% of his story.
I think they should have just got him more involved, honestly. They should have done a little bit differently. Because I like Joshua. I like having the two icons, the fire icons. I just think that they,
they tried to hide it for a
yeah,
long
they try to
time.
hide it for too
Yeah,
long. And then the whole
yeah,
running
they dragged it
around
out.
chasing each other, like,
Yeah,
it's like, dude, that's a
it
cool
was dragged
segment,
out.
but you dragged it out throughout the whole game. So by the end of it, you're kind of like, okay, I wish you would have been here earlier, bro. Like, you're kind of late to the party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so one of my. So I'm gonna ask y'all's opinion on something. So the very beginning at the Battle of Phoenix Gate, you see the dude in the robe. Okay. Later on, we find out the dude in the robe is Joshua. So was there some sort of freaking time travel thing going on where Joshua was able to show up at Phoenix Gate in the robe, like
Yeah, while he was also getting his ass beat.
while he was also getting his ass beat, or was that Ultima? Like it never was clear until you see the robe later, and you're like, oh wait, yeah, that's Joshua. Like this makes total. Like I had called that. Um, Actually, I think I was talking to RP about it, and I was like, dude, that's Joshua. It has to be Joshua. And I didn't know that Joshua was going to be alive for the game, right? I had no idea. I was like, oh shoot, they killed him already. Cool. Um,
Yeah.
we get a revenge storyline, and of I have a really bad habit of when I play games, I try to break the story before the story breaks itself to me. Um, just because I've played these so many dang times, and I've played games like this, and I've been to the puppet show and I've seen the strings, right? I know what they're gonna do, and so sometimes I try to break the game. Tales of
Yeah,
Arise, I couldn't break it. Like every time I thought I had it figured out, they threw something else at me. This
yeah,
one,
yeah. They did.
I pretty aside from Dion, I pretty much knew what was going on. Like,
Yeah,
well, let me rephrase that. Aside from Dion and the actually that whole kind of story, that part of the story always felt like it could really go either way. Like it could have been the king who was possessed by Ultima. It could have been the mom, Annabelle. It could have been the child. Like it could have gone so many different ways. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't know who is who. And then you see a cutscene where Dion does something, and you're like, okay, it's definitely the dad. It's definitely the king. Then you see another one, and you're like, Annabelle's kind of a hoe. Okay, it's probably
Dude,
her.
I haven't hated a video game character like Annabelle in a long time, man. Like I really like I don't know how many times I try to kill her without the game allowing me to do so. Just kind of like with playing The Last of Us 2, like how many times did I try to kill what's her name? Gabby?
yeah.
Like I tried everything to kill her, fucking jumping off a building, everything.
He was like, just
Same
let it
thing with
end.
her.
Let it
Just
end.
yeah, yes.
Funny enough, in Last of Us 2, I actually purposefully fell off of buildings with Abby and Ellie. I
Oh
hated both
man.
of them.
Yeah, true.
Like,
At a certain point, you're like, can we just throw it and start over again? Like, throw them away?
I literally hate played that entire game. It was so
Yeah, me
awful
too.
for me. I hate played it because I wanted to get a friend of mine to start playing Ghost of Tsushima, and he told me that he wanted me to play Last of Us Part Two. So I was like, shit, you're getting the way better deal, and this is bullshit. But I'll do it. Like, it's, but so we've kind of talked about some of the negative. We uh, kind of talked about quite a few things actually. But let's go ahead and move over to the next topic, which we are going to talk about the medieval setting. So, Will, you're going to come in a little bit on this one, but with your limited history of Final Fantasy, uh, it may be a little difficult for you to be able to speak to it. But I still want to know what you thought about the setting, how they portrayed it, how they did it. Nate, I want to know your thoughts on what'd you feel like going back to medieval? Because in a Final Fantasy game, we haven't been fully medieval
In a very
in
long time.
in a very long time. I would say the closest we've gotten was either Final Fantasy 9 or Final Fantasy 15, but 15 was more well, anyways, uh Final Fantasy 9 was kind of medieval, and then everything from 7 on it wasn't quite there. Like it was more sci-fi, and then it was more sci-fi than high fantasy.
Hmm.
And so what was your thought on them getting back to medieval? Do you think they nailed it, knocked it out of the park, lacked? What you got?
I think as far as the story they wanted to tell, I thought it fit perfectly. Um, within those bounds, I mean, they wanted to tell like I guess, a really grounded story with the only thing, I guess, being very mystical or magical, being, the icons. And I mean, they stuck to that pretty hard, for better or for worse. Um, it, like I said, I like the story, the way that they told it, and whatnot, but it didn't have the same magic like I was talking about earlier when I was saying how we discovered all these different places that were full of life and these different walks of life and the way people lived, that you typically discover in a lot of Final Fantasy games. Like I said, it happened in 8, 10 as well. When you're discovering one of the places in the jungle where I forgot their names, but the blue people, where they live, and you get welcomed and like go through their like tribal kind of rituals and how they're like a very warrior like tribe and stuff like that, and like there was just so much to it, and it was like I never felt like I really got. This was a very grounded human, you know, you know, the dying form of the Westeros, the bastard son, kind of story. As far as like what they wanted to tell, I think that going back to this and kind of sticking to it as hard as they did a good job. Um, but I do feel like they kind of lost some of the magic of, you know, discovery that a lot of Final Fantasies tend to have. Some of the locales and stuff were really beautiful, but the world all really kind of felt like, you know, in one specific tone or another. At least until you got to the very end, and obviously that looked very bleak and dark, and you know there was no leaves on trees and stuff like that. But again, it was still just very much that single kind of tone. There was no real major change in any of the cities that you went to, which, like I said, understandable because you know, with this grounded tone that they took. So yeah, while I felt like they nailed it, I felt like they kind of lost a lot of the magic that I love from a lot of the other Final Fantasies of discovering the world and how whimsical and crazy it can get. You know, when you're I didn't have that. Oh my God, we discovered, you know, the secret society of flying people or something. You know, I don't know. Like Final Fantasy gets crazy, um, or you know, JRPGs in general. But Final Fantasy is very famous and known for that kind of stuff. Even when they have that weird kind of like grounded setting, you know, Final Fantasy 12 was like that, right? And then, you know, not too long after the opening cutscene, you know, they're flying and battling in the sky. Like Final Fantasy has a way of mixing both, and this one just uh, seemed like they really wanted to tell that grounded, more Game of Thrones level story, especially with the mother and everything. So I felt like I said, in the world and everything they wanted to tell, I think they nailed it. It's just I felt like they lost something in the process. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was gonna say. Like, so one of my favorite games that I never got to play way back in the day was Star Ocean First Departure,
Hmm.
and I played that last year. And dude, within the first 2 hours, you're discovering that you know absolutely jack shit about the world you're in and the universe that you're in, and it just is what it is. Like you get transported from your little tiny rock to a big huge spaceship, and they start telling you about all the stuff that you had no clue about. And so I kind of like the high fantasy setting or the sci-fi
Hmm.
setting because it does lend itself to more exploration. But I do also really enjoy the grounded nature that this game went through. Like, even being able to explain why there's magic, how there's magic, uh,
Hmm.
the fact that people didn't know how to build a fire because they had magic crystals that let them build a fire. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
thought
getting to
that was
see them learn in
really
the end.
interesting
Yeah.
because it wasn't because they were lazy, it's because they never had to learn. Like, it's like my kids with like the TV, right?
Hmm.
They're never going to know what it's like to have, you know, USA playing and then TNT on the previous channel button. So
Oh
during
yeah.
commercials, you could flip back to go watch something else
Yep.
and then flip back when that came on. Like that's how my brother and I used to watch WCW Monday Night Nitro and WWF Raw because we had them set up like that. My kids are never going to have to know that. It's all about Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. Well, it's really mainly not about any streaming service anymore, but you get what I'm saying.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's they're never going to have to know that. And so I think the setting that they used for this was spot on perfect. But I also agree with you like there was never that I think we got a little bit of that with Mid when you start realizing that her and Sid were working on this engine design, uh,
Yeah, I think that was about the most like, oh shit, like we got some new tech.
But
We
it
got
can't
some.
fly. It can't
Yeah,
fly.
but you can't. Yeah, yeah, you can't. You're not gonna really get to control it. Like I thought we were gonna have our airship moment, but we
Yeah,
didn't. Yeah.
where you that's what I was hoping for. And I did like the little reference back to the other games. We're like, yep, does it fly? Not yet. We're still a long way from that. Like
Hmm.
I thought that was really
Yeah, they
funny
kind of
because
made a joke. Yeah.
yes. And so, what about you, Will? What did you think of the setting and the like just the storytelling aspect of the setting? Like, did you enjoy the medieval? Are you more sci-fi in your other game choices? Like, what do you think?
Medieval and sci-fi are my preferences. So those are the two style or genres of games, movies, literature, I mean anything that I prefer. So that's what actually intrigued me into the game to begin with. When I first saw that, the trailer for the very first time and saw the setting, that's what really got me to look into it deeper. But something that I'm hearing you guys talk about right now brings up something that I've been hearing on social media a lot, especially from the Final Fantasy veterans, is that besides the gameplay and the RPG elements and all that stuff, setting is obviously a big deal. But something that I keep hearing over and over again, not just in this game, but in other games, especially when you have numerous in the franchise, is constantly comparing them to what they were and never really being able to bring in what the game offers, which to me it kind of hurts. I'm not talking about you guys in specific, but in people, especially with movies, it doesn't let you take in the world fully, or it tries to you try to figure it out before everything's laid out in front of you. And this game with that setting brought something new to the medieval genre. I mean, why do we like medieval genre anyways? Because of the influences in Gothic and literature and especially the romantic poetry that was very popular in the time, the Victorian art. All these things were done in this game, from the way they spoke to the history to how magic came around. And it even brings in things that we go through in our everyday life. You talked about Thrifty, your kids never not knowing the back button. It's kind of like how the pyramids and how they were built. Like, did we lose the technology? Were they so advanced? So the game did a great job in not only getting you interested in the world, but also having you think about kind of building more of the story in your head that's already in the screen. So that's why I really like the medieval, because it has kind of a ground base for what we think medieval should be, and all they did was build from there and made it their own. Now, would I have loved to see more sci-fi in the game? Absolutely, because they're both, my favorite genre. That's why Horizon is my favorite, or one of my favorite games, because they do the prehistoric kind of deal, but in the future with the sci-fi thing, and I think it's super interesting. But remember, guys, I've never played none of the Final Fantasy games, not because I didn't have access to them, because I've been gaming since the early 90s, but because nothing really grabbed my attention like this game did.
Well, yeah, and I think that's why he was asking you just specifically what you think of the setting as it pertains to this game, not in comparison to the other games since you didn't really play them. So yeah, we get it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why we said we felt like they in the grounds of what they wanted to do in this one, and we're well, we just mentioned the things that we felt like since we have played the other ones, what do you felt like was missing? So it's like for what it is, we liked what they did. Like I said, it is like RPG said in the chat as well. Uh, it is very Game of Thrones inspired. I mean, they spoke about that multiple times themselves, and it's very obvious if you've watched Game of Thrones how much it is inspired by that. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I liked it for what it was. Um, But yeah, I mean, when you get something, the first thing game devs will tell you if you listen to actually some of the development, they'll tell you is they talk about all the shit they couldn't put in the game because they ran out of time. So that's over time after I, I've been playing. I didn't have a gap in my gaming. I was lucky enough to not, like you were saying, when you didn't play for a while and whatnot.
Hmm.
I've been playing constantly since that time frame, and I'm a little older than you. I'm 37, so and I've been playing for about the same time, like you said, about 4 or 5 years old. But because of that, the plethora and huge amount of content you get to consume over that time frame, you're naturally gonna compare, contrast, and see what could have been done, and that's always the fun speculation too, because obviously, if there's going to be a sequel, what are they gonna expand upon? How far are they gonna go? How much more can they do? Is there more to be explored in this world? Is it another world? Um, and again, that's something that pertains to Final Fantasy specifically because uh, Final Fantasy numbered ones are usually entirely separate. So it's very, very rare that you get Final Fantasy 16 2. You know what I mean? Like we have had those, but it's extremely rare in the series to get that.
And most of
So
them
it
were
made us, yeah.
mistakes.
And yeah, and most of them were really good. So there's a reason for that.
They were really
That
bad.
it's rare. Yeah, they were really bad. So
The only one that I can think of is like 10-2, and that's the
God,
only one I can think of off the top of
10
my
2
head.
and 13-2.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
13.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then Lightning
13 went all the way to
Returns.
3. Yeah, so yeah.
Jesus. Those
Yeah.
were terrible. At least 10-2 had one of the more fun battle systems. I really enjoyed the dress spheres in there. I thought they were really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they did get a
Um,
little creative with that.
like you could, so the dress spheres, the way it worked is you would equip a different dress sphere to one of the main characters, and that changed what job they were or what class they were, so to speak. So in one fight, you could have Yuna as a summoner, Pain as a samurai, and Riku as a black mage or whatever. And it really added to the strategic element. But the rest of that game was dog shit. So it had this amazing combat system, and the rest of the game just fell flat. But on Final Fantasy 16, uh, what did y'all think of the ending? What was what are some of the thoughts on the way it ended? Do we think Clive is still alive? Do we think Clive is dead, turned to stone, drifted away back into the ocean? Like, what are y'all's thoughts? And Will, I'll go ahead and start with you on this one.
It was bittersweet. Uh, with this game, the ending. Normally, I look forward to the ending of a game, especially when the story's really good. But for this game, the ending didn't really hit for me. I feel like the peakness of the game was the whole middle part. The ending to me was just kind of like a period to a great story. It really didn't add on or take away much for me. Do I
It just
think
happened.
it just happened? Yeah. Do I think Clyde is still alive or dead? I really don't care. I kind of wish he's still alive so we can play him again. But if we don't, then it is what it is. I think the ending really gave me the understanding of Final Fantasy being an individual, each game is its own thing. And that's the vibe it gave me. Like, and I expected that from the beginning. So I was kind of actually hoping that they would leave it sort of open-ended, so we can get another one. But then I go back to the history of Final Fantasy, and I realized that that probably wasn't going to happen. But no, it really didn't do much for me. I wish they would have done it a little bit differently. And I'm actually more excited to see Jill. It's just we fell in love with these people, with these characters, that I wish that we would have. went in to see, like Jill, what she do, and Gav, and everybody else at the base, what they're gonna do now. But then that scene where it kind of jump skips time into the future, and it's just like a fairy tale being told to the kids. Um, it was kind of a nice little touch on it.
Yeah, I'm a bit different on. I didn't necessarily like the ending, only because I'm tired of the same trope. Like the main character can never get the win, never get the victory without dying or without losing everything, and then he's just left by himself. Like it's just, I'm very tired of that trope, and
Yeah,
I've
I
seen it.
agree.
There's a lot of JRPGs that do that, and that was actually one of the things about the Trails series that interests me so much. Like because some of the characters, those Jokers hang out for a long time in the canon, and like Lloyd Banning is introduced at the beginning in the Trails from Zero game that I'm playing, and he's actually in Trails into Rivia or sorry, Trails into Reverie
Hmm.
that just came out, which is really cool because that means he survived like 5 other games. Like that doesn't happen in JRPGs. The main character has to die. Like I don't know why, but which is also why at the end. Never mind. That's a spoiler. Can't say that. Um, let's just
Well,
say
but
there was
you know what you just brought up though
what?
is the fun fact that a lot of people don't actually consider. But when you ask people who primary JRPGs is their favorite genre, almost no one's favorite JRPG is a Final Fantasy game. Funny enough,
Oh,
it's almost always something else. Like Final Fantasy is in there somewhere in their top 10. Probably their favorite one, but in their top 10. But typically their favorite JRPG is not actually Final Fantasy, despite the popularity of Final Fantasy.
you know what? I never thought about that, but I'll be honest. I played Tales of Arise because I got it on the Black Friday sale right after it came out,
Hmm.
and that is probably my favorite RPG. That I mean, as far as system goes, like it's so hard to pick a favorite, but I think you had posted the question, "Hey, what's your favorite of something?" And I can't remember what it was, and I was like, "Dude, I don't know if I have one. Can I pick per system because
Yeah,
there's so
I forgot what I asked. I had picked, but I forgot what it was. But yeah, I frequently ask people what's their favorite in that particular thing because mine hasn't changed in years. My first two, I think it was overall or something, but my first
yeah,
two favorite games of all time, period, not just JRPGs, is Xenogears number one and Suikoden 2 number two. Period. They haven't been surpassed. Like, and I the amount of games, and I sat back at some point and thought about the amount of games I've played and the expand of time and the expansion of time that I've played, and it's like for that not to have changed, and it's not. I always explain to people, I can give you the full reasoning for those, and I still play both of them, and they still stand the test of time. It's not like a nostalgia thing, like, oh, I was 6 years old and I really loved that game. No, like to this day, the character development, world building, and the way the story takes place, and the way the characters develop, and you know, uh, learn to understand and uh, coexist with one another, and the unique combat systems in both of those games still stand up. Which, mind you, by the way, is why the Suikoden remaster 1 and 2 is on its way, so lots of people can get to experience that for the first time.
yeah. It's one of those things that the ending of this game really threw me for a loop because I surely thought, and I can't give spoilers here, but I surely thought that after playing so many other RPGs where one or more of the main character dies, I'm like, surely they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
No. No, no, no. Jill's gonna be staring up at the moon, and he's gonna fly back from where that little red dot was next to the moon, and it's gonna be good. And then she just, and then no, not her. I'm sorry, Torgal does his howl, and by the way, that's when I started crying. If anybody must know, um, when Torgal actually like started showing his emotion, I bawled like a bitch, and the but it was because it was sad. Like it's so weird. They told a good story. I felt like the ending let me down, but it was still a damn good story told and a damn good ending. Like, does that make sense? Am I like am I making any
No,
sense with
dude.
this?
That's why I said that the payoff of this whole story was
Yeah.
the middle part. You know, it was the building of it and the middle of it, and then
Yeah, the end just happened.
the
I'm in
end just
agreement with
happened.
that. Yeah, it was like, oh, it's done and cool, and we got to see them make fire for the first time by themselves, and my boy washed up on shore, and
Yeah.
like it. Honestly, I kind of feel like they've been watching a lot of movies with the way that ended because I've been bitching about that for a while with movies. You know how we
Yes.
used to get like that the after thing, like what happened after the thing. We don't get that anymore. It's
Especially
just
in the
like,
90s movies, like Bob
yeah.
went off to build a career selling shoes. He had three
Yeah,
kids.
exactly. You don't get the after story no more. It just ends. And that's basically what happened in here. Like it's like where everybody at though? Like
Dude,
Yeah.
when it yeah.
my wife and I were watching a movie on Netflix about a year ago, and I'm not going to say the title because I don't want to ruin it, but essentially the movie had like had the main story plot, and then it had like four other plots to the story.
Hmm.
And at the end of it, the main story gets resolved, and one of the four other stories gets resolved. And I was expecting that recap, like, okay, so real quick pan over here, 12 seconds of footage. You know now what happened to them.
Yeah.
Awesome. These two people got married. This dude re-enlisted. Like, cool. This
Yeah,
guy's
yeah.
walking again after getting his legs blown off. Like, whatever. Like,
Yeah. You
just
got no closure though.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
I got a book written by Joshua Rossfield, who that's awesome. Uh, but outside of that, what else? What did I get? I got nothing. I don't know how Jill is. I don't know how the hideaway is. I don't know what
Yep.
happened
Yep. Yep.
to anybody. Oh, but now we're gonna fast forward, and now they can make fire, and they're reading this story and acting like they're these characters. Like that doesn't make any damn sense to me.
You know,
And
something
you,
very cool that you made me just think of, Thrifty, is Joshua, that whole secret organization thingy that protects the icon bearer. Like, I wish they would have went into that as well. Like, they could have. There's so much in the ending. You know, they concluded the story of the game, but like you mentioned, they built up the story so well and the characters that we care about so much that one person dying, Clive and Josh, well, more than one person, and Dion. Damn, everybody died. Um, you still want to know more about just the day to day, and that's why I really like the side missions, the side quests so much. Because yes, you're picking up a plate from the counter, taking it to the table, but during that process, Clive is realizing the story of this bear and what he had to go through, and how thankful he is that he got that plate because of everything he
hey
experienced.
guys, keep talking. I'll be back. My son just woke up from a nightmare. I'll be back.
All right.
So yeah, man. So I mean, the ending. Now that I'm talking about it with you guys, really fucking let me down. Now I'm pissed off about it because they could
It's
have
like,
done
yo,
so
now that I
much
put some
about it.
thought into this, yo, fuck that ending.
Yeah, fuck that ending. Hey, but I'll tell you this: as much as I say that I dislike Final Fantasy VII, and I don't want to say I dislike it, I just think that I'm not that good at the turn-based and mixed with the action, that I just haven't gotten good at it yet. But I'm sure once
So
I
here,
do,
I'll
I'll
tell
like it
you a
better.
secret now that he's gone, because I know it's his jam. I'm a huge, massive turn-based fan, and I do not like the combat system in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
So I'm not
So,
crazy.
so you're not crazy.
All right,
It's
good.
it's not a It's not a thing because you don't really typically like turn-based. It's a very unique system in the middle that some people just really, really, really loved. Um, and I'm in the same boat with you. I didn't hate it, but I don't love it either. Like I and I had a bunch of gripes with it. So yeah, you're not alone. Um, in that regard, I
And
do
I'm
still plan on
trying.
finishing it. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna try a little bit more,
So you
but
haven't
there's
finished
certain
it
things
either.
I haven't finished it either. Yeah, that so
Okay.
which goes to show you a lot because I played
Yeah.
nothing but JRPGs for damn near.
Yeah.
So, um, but I mean, I'm definitely gonna go back to it. I want to finish, the remake, and get ready for the next part when it
Yeah.
comes out, so on and so
I
forth.
mean, look, I got finished playing Final Fantasy XVI, and as much as I say that I don't like 7 remake, I
hmm
immediately bought Crisis Core. Immediately, just because I
Now to
wanted
tell you the
more.
now to tell you the difference, Crisis Core was actually my jam, but not this one. I don't know how much they nailed it. I heard they nailed it, but Crisis Core like original when it was on PSP, I played the brakes off that shit. So if it's anything like that, I actually think you'll like it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be playing it. Well, man, whenever I get to it, I bought it on impulse after 16. Right now, I'm
Yeah.
playing Remnant 2, and then I got Atlas Falls that comes out this week, which I pre-ordered. That will probably take me the next week. We can have depending on how long it is, and then
Nice.
what's coming at the end of the month, Force Solus. I'm interested in that, and then that other game.
Yeah, my
Damn.
friend gave me crap about that because I forgot about that game. She was like, "How dare you forget about
No,
Fort
I
Solus?"
mean it's not that big. It's
It's
not, you
really
know.
not, but she just likes giving me shit.
Hey, that's what friends do, bro.
Absolutely. And she prides herself on being the best friend. So yeah, she gotta. Can't nobody give you shit like your best friend.
Mm-mm. Facts. Yeah, no, this next quarter of the year is gonna be heavy with games. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty set, bro. I spent a mint this year on games when adding it up. I was just adding up what I spent versus somebody else that I know definitely spent more than me was the joke. Uh, and they definitely did, but it wasn't by as much as I thought. And when I looked at it, I think I spent almost 1,300 this year
Yeah,
on
no,
gaming.
I got a bad habit of buying games day one, not playing them for 4 months. No,
Yeah.
dude, I went from having, like I said, I went from taking that break in gaming because of life to now I got a collection of over 200 physical games, 500 digital games, all within the last like 3, 4 years.
That build up is easy, especially if you had a little breaky break, cause when you come back, especially PlayStation stays hit. PlayStation be hitting you with a sale so often,
Yep.
they be like, yo, I put this on sale, and then I bought another sale to go with the sale while that
Yep.
was on sale.
Yep. Bro, it's so bad that every day, like I get home from work, I handle my dad duties, cook dinner, help the kid with the homework, blah blah blah. When I
Yeah.
turn my PS5, the very first thing I do is check the homepage, check the news, any videos, and then I go into the store right away and then scroll through the sale every
Yep.
single day. And I mean, I buy so many games that are like $3, $5, that are bangers that came out in the mid 2000 teens that I just missed. And I mean, it's been great, man. People who, when was it? Last year when I started on my gaming, trying to get 100 games that year, I started with Xbox and I started with the Halos. I beat
hmm
all the Halos except for Infinite, and then I went to the Gears, beat all those. Love those games. But then I'm looking through the Xbox ecosystem, like, what else do they have? I
hmm
go into the PlayStation, I'm still eating.
Yeah, yeah, bro. You gonna be eating for a long time. They still coming, bro. They still coming.
Yep.
I'll be trying to tell people, bro. People thought that was a joke a long time ago. The whole Halo, Gears, and Forza. That was not a joke.
No,
like,
it's a
like it was,
fact.
yeah, it was very much all they really had, and
It's sad.
it is, it is. I mean, now we in a different world. They try and we'll see what they get out of it.
Nah, bro. I'm not with that. I need actions. I've been an adult longer
Oh
than
yeah,
I've been
yeah.
a
That's what I
kid.
told people. I was like, let me know when it's here.
Yes, because the how many girls I would have been with if they still listen to their promises. Nah, bro, I need action. Yeah, no, they
Nah,
need to do some. I mean, Starfield's coming out. Did you see that it's 100 and like 25 gigs on PC?
I did not, but I got the space. I'm ready. I ordered the premium edition, so I'm
Oh,
ready.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I got a
me and my
Series
girl about
S.
that life.
That's all I'm gonna be playing it on. I'm not gonna invest in no, well, I got a Steam Deck, and that's
Yeah.
my first introduction to quote unquote PC gaming.
Okay.
But yeah, though, I like the simplicity of the console where I just push a button, it's on, and I get to play right away.
Hey,
I
bro.
don't
As
have it
as
in
a
there.
person that plays on PC, I will be the first person to tell you, PC is not for everyone, and understandably so.
Yeah, I
So
don't
All
know how to
right.
fix something if it breaks or troubleshooting, changing the settings. Like, I don't know if I
yeah,
got that in
that
me.
and all that is the stuff that I go through all the time, and that's why I'm glad I play on both and have for years. I'll be the first person to tell somebody not to get a PC, unlike most PC dudes. Like it's just I'm like, look, when after I get to know you and I talk to people, I'm like, look, some people it's not for you, but at the same time I tell people sometimes I'm like, look, if you in the market for a PC, maybe a family PC, and it's gonna cost you 700 to 800 bucks for you to get something decent,
Hmm.
spend 1100 instead, get you something you can do some light gaming on, just in case something comes out that's dope that
Yeah,
isn't on PlayStation, and you can play it over there. Plug a
yeah.
controller in, and you can hit your man's up, help you get it set up, and you off to the races. So that happens all the time. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a thing, man. But PlayStation will keep you fed. Believe me, ain't no shortage there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
So,
doing the math. It's every quarter they've been releasing a game all the way through the first quarter of next year with not Final yeah, Final Fantasy, right? Crisis or not Crisis Core, but Rebirth.
Seven Rebirth, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean PlayStation is actually doing the one AAA game per quarter that Xbox promised 2 years ago. They're
Yep.
doing it on accident.
But see, you said the one thing that I'll say because I gotta slide out. My girlfriend's
Yeah.
ready for her coffee. But the one thing that we'll say, like, we about that action. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, stop. It's time to stop buying, stop acquiring, and start delivering. That's
yeah.
it.
Facts.
Cause I can't play acquisitions. I can play games. So
Yep,
give me those.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
guys. So sorry about having to bounce out. Discussing the ending was kind of the finale for tonight.
Yep.
That's where I wanted to end it. So, Nate, let folks know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, man. Just on PlayStation, Innate, or on Twitter at the Real Innate. Again, playing JRPGs like I always do, man. Peace.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely, bro.
And Will, what about you, man? Where can we find you? Where can we see anything from you? What you got, man?
Man, y'all will find me on PlayStation the most, honestly, which is Will777JP, and I am on Twitter as well. I'm not very active on there, but I be looking at the tweets and any DMs that I get, so hit me up on there. But the best way to get a hold of me, man, is PlayStation. That's where I'm at almost every single day, playing on something. I just started playing co-op a lot more, especially with Thrifty, and shout out to Nelson who helped me play Remnant 2 last week before he started work again, and it's been amazing. So hit me up on there.
Awesome. And guys, you found me here, but you can find me on Twitter at thriftypsgr. My PlayStation name is thriftyps_gr, and then you already know about the channel. Appreciate those who stopped by tonight. It was a very, very pointed stream, so I knew the numbers on both nights weren't going to be that large because there are still people who are playing this and still working their way through it. I know we had a couple people drop in here and be like, dang, I want to stay, but I have to pass because of the topic. And that's totally cool. I wanted to do this as more of a just kind of a tribute almost to one of the greatest games, and I'd say one of the top four, top three Final Fantasy games out there. Uh, so maybe not. Let's say top four. There we go. Yeah, top four sounds good. Because that leaves room for the 8, 7R, 10, this one. Yeah, that works. Um, but if you have played this and you think like we do, or you have some things that we missed, towards the end, my son woke up from a nightmare, so I had to go be with him and help him out. Um, he does this sleepwalking thing that's just, if you've ever had a kid that sleepwalks, that shit is terrifying. It almost seems like they're possessed. It's so weird because they're walking, they're having a conversation with you, they don't know what's going on, and then they get freaked out because they don't know what's happening. And so, like, it's a whole thing. Thankfully, I've had 9 years to navigate that. But thank y'all for stopping by. Thank y'all for those who came. And guys, as always, you know the drill. Stay thrifty.